This is Chapter 3 of the Nels SMP storyline. The date was February 6th, the day of the attack. A whole week of preparation on both sides led up to this moment. I had acquired a multi-shot crossbow with fireworks, a riptide trident, as well as perfect enchantments on my netherite armor. I felt close to invincible. On the British side, Ziggy had also got himself a trident, but chose to put loyalty and impaling on it. Nels and AJ now overall both had the same armor as me, but lacked my firepower. Each faction knew that, one way or another, today the war would end. In my heart was a smoldering rage, and in theirs was a will to do the right thing, to rise up against tyranny and greed, and overthrow the king they once accepted as their own. At precisely 10 a.m., I launched my attack. Sneaking by their defenses, I hoped to claim for my own a relic of great value to my enemies. The ancient Grumblock. Ziggy's prized possession, taken from the first Enderman, or Grum as he calls them, he met on this server. Its power and prestige rivaled that of the Dragon Egg itself, and I intended to use it to win this war. After a few close encounters, I managed to reach the item frame where the block was kept, in the very meeting hall where the Declaration of Peace was signed. Taking it from its perch, I turned to retreat to my base, but Ziggy blocked my path. With a sword in hand, he approached me and asked me what I was doing. After a few brief moments of silence, I took out my own sword and replied that this was how the war would end. Hitting him once with my weapon, I dashed past him and ran towards the nether portal that led back to my side of the SMP. In rage and confusion, he followed me. Little did he know, this was exactly what I wanted. I baited him into my bunker and into one of the underground rooms, where I had erected an obsidian cage. Holding the block over a pool of lava, I demanded that he put all of his items in the shulker box next to him and go into the cage. If he failed to comply, he would see his precious block go up in flames. Reluctantly, he complied and I locked him in. He was now completely trapped. I had won. Without Ziggy as their leader, the other two would fall into line, and I could reclaim my throne. In fact, I could add another crown to my collection. Flushed with success, I taunted him and placed another relic I had acquired, the ancient Ender Pearl, inside of his cell. Leaving him to rot, I ascended to the surface and made my way to the British camp. Halfway there, I realized I had made a critical error. Ziggy's equipment. I had left it inside of the shulker box in my bunker. Rushing back, I opened the shulker box and my heart stopped. It was empty. I opened the cell and found it empty too. He had escaped. Looking up, I noticed the ventilation shaft I'd constructed and the empty item frame that once held the ancient Ender Pearl. Ziggy had escaped. In my own overconfidence, I had supplied him with the means to escape his prison and fight back against me. I returned to the surface and sent him a message, demanding where he was. He responded a few minutes later. Time stood still as I read his message. He still had the egg. He hadn't destroyed it and was willing to trade it for the Grumblock. Thinking it was a trick, I asked him to prove that the egg still existed. We agreed to meet at the ruins on the outskirts of the British camp. When I arrived, Ziggy was waiting for me, and he had the egg. He placed it on a pedestal and asked to see the Grumblock. I showed it to him, and proposed the trade. After another long silence, he refused and sprang his trap. AJ and Nels leaped from their hiding places, and all three attacked me at once. In sudden panic, I fled towards my newly constructed dark tower that loomed over the enemy camp. They chased me all the way up and trapped me at the top. There was no more running away. This was it. The final showdown. Ziggy, Nels, and AJ against me. All three of them rushed me. I tried to fend them off, but even the best equipment in the game couldn't defeat teamwork. Eventually, AJ broke my shield with her axe, and it finished me off quickly. I lost everything. My perfect armor set, my weapons, tools, food, everything. I was completely and utterly defeated. The British had won. All of the preparation, all of the grinding was for nothing. I respawned in my house, powerless. My dream of power had crumbled. The war was finally over. Weirdly enough, it wasn't all that bad. I had spent so much time on this server with the threat of war over my head that to be liberated from it, it was almost a blessing. I was free. Unfortunately, my fate was in Ziggy's hands. He took my armor and weapons and hung them up as a trophy in his secret cave. When AJ and Nels logged off, he captured me and imprisoned me in an underground cell in his own bunker under the ruins. The irony was laughable. For the next 3 weeks, I languished in that cell, writing in a single book and on a few signs that I still had on me. Ziggy came by every few days at the beginning, handing me poisonous potatoes and rotten flesh as food to sustain me. But as the days dragged on, he stopped coming. I was left with nothing. With my sanity unraveling, I kept having recurring dreams of an important set of numbers. -1, 1, 9, 2, 1, 2, 8, and 8. What they signified, I had no idea. But I soon became fixated on them, writing them again and again in my book. They became the only reason I had to continue living. They were important, and no matter what happened to me next, I would uncover what they meant. And thus begins the 4th chapter of our story, the descent into madness.